My name is Ayo Seligman, Vice President of Strategy and Design at Minerva. I'm also the author of Minerva's most recent white paper, which explores many of the barriers to institutional innovation and outlines a roadmap for creating distinctive new programs. I've been with Minerva since its inception more than 10 years ago. And after we launched our flagship partner, Minerva University, we began collaborating to help create new programs and drive innovation with other partners around the world, including the two we have represented here today. Today's conversation includes Kathi Kern from the University of Miami and Rafael Estrada from Anáhuac Online. Following our conversation, we will open up the floor for questions. The conversation will be recorded, but we will stop the recording for the Q&A portion. Today, we will explore topics related to new program innovation by discussing the experiences of these two distinguished leaders. We will touch on the context, objectives, and the process for designing and implementing new programs, including some of the obstacles they faced and how they overcame them. Our first guest, Kathi Kern, is the inaugural Vice Provost for Educational Innovation at the University of Miami, a top-ranked private R1 institution in the US. Kathi is responsible for realizing much of the university's strategic vision for this new century. My second guest is Rafael Estrada, the founder and academic director of Anáhuac Online, a division of Universidad Anáhuac. Anáhuac is a leading university network serving over 48,000 students with 13 locations in Mexico and abroad. So in 2021, the University of Miami partnered with Minerva to launch an interdisciplinary degree program in innovation, technology, and design. Kathi, the ITD program is both highly interdisciplinary and hands-on. Can you give us an overview of the program?
Thank you so much, Ayo, and thank you. It's a pleasure to join you and Rafa to talk about new program development. And Minerva's been a terrific partner to us at the University of Miami. So thanks for an opportunity to reflect on that. Our Innovation Technology Design program is innovative for us. It's a course of study that students can complete in 3 years or 4 years, depending on their choice. It has heavy industry, private sector involvement, lots of experiential learning, and it's a new curriculum that's been built at the intersection of multiple disciplines, including engineering, interactive communication, entrepreneurship, and various fields of arts and sciences, including social justice. So the concept is design thinking, that the students will learn the steps of it and apply it to real world problems that they are presented in design challenges. So it's new, it's in its second year, and we're really excited about it.
Thanks so much for that overview. Rafa, Anáhuac Online partnered with Minerva to design a flexible model for launching high-quality hybrid and virtual programs. Can you give us some of the key aspects of the model and why it made sense to design at the institutional level?
Of course, hi everybody. It's really nice to be here with you. We are really excited with this work we are making because one of the main topics of Anáhuac Online was giving a space of innovation in terms to giving a new step in what we are building to enter the online communities in Mexico. So we have developed an MBA that we are relaunching maybe next year after the design phases are through. And it has 4 main characteristics that I will highlight in this comment. The first one is it's evidence-based and also really focused in terms of active learning pedagogy. And it's very important for us because bringing this to our online environment is changing the ways we were designing the content before. So it's really motivating for all the students that are going to face these new realities. The second one, I think it's very shared interest in everybody that's making this happen, is this skill-focused curriculum design in terms of these durable skills and these also durable skills related to the character building of the program we want to do. That's why we have, even in one of the competencies, we are making this ethical thinking competency that it's very important for us in terms of building character and not only giving tools for the labor market and skills development to enter in certain profession. That's important for us, and it has been a really good matching point with Minerva. And also this outcome-driven assessment practice that is changing all the way we were making the assessment in an online and hybrid education model, and the technology-enabled delivery that is bringing new technologies as they want to be only the deliverable way to get in touch with the students and engage them into the learning process. So this artificial intelligence and also the use of distinct types of technology is helping the design of the content in general. So we are very excited of this MBA launching soon.
Yeah, we're excited too. I want to dig in now to kind of what drove the innovation in the first place. It's typical for institutions to drive change in response to crises, but in neither of the cases here was that the case. So Rafa, for Anáhuac, what motivated you and the institution to embark on an innovation journey?
I love to answer this question because I think the most important part of the innovation journey is not trying to do something new by the sake of making something new by itself. So we were like fighting with this idea in an internal way of not only trying to make something new and different from the things we have been made before, but rather it's going to sound a little bit emotional maybe, but I think it's true. It's the love of the students and get to know students better and to fully understand their needs, not only in terms of their skill development needs, but the whole needs as a person, and trying to reach the student in a better way is the main drive for innovation. So making innovation in the perspective we have been facing these days is trying to get to the student in a profound way to help him get what he's expecting from this education that will enhance not only the way he will be prepared for entering a new job or for being competitive in this AI ecosystem of technology, but also to understand himself better, to understand the world better, and to have a more intelligent relationship with reality. That it's the main goal we think about education. So that was the main driven Ayo. It's getting to know better our students and be better in designing something that will really make a match to the education not only the market is expecting, but also the nature of the student is needing.
Yeah, I love that student centricity and the kind of broader appeal beyond just sort of technical skills or market oriented skills, but also the idea of citizenship in this world. Kathi, at you're entering your second century, and you had record applicants, high research productivity, a solid student outcomes. As part of the New Century Initiative, the Miami president, Frank, outlined some of the trends that would spur big change at What are some of those trends as you see them, and how does the new ITD program align with Miami's strategic vision?
Thanks, Ayo. And I want to comment on Rafa's point. I really love this idea of building in an ethical thinking component and building around who we want our students to be as people. And I think that's something that in all of the talk of innovation, and for us, our second century, we can't lose sight of this conundrum that I think we're in as faculty and as institutions. And that is, on the one hand, we hear from our industry partners, you're not adequately preparing students for the workforce. And on the other hand, we're told you need to prepare these students for jobs that don't exist yet, right? The jobs they will do throughout their lifetimes don't yet exist. And so that's why I think the points you were making, Rafa, about an ethical thinking component are so important. We have to continue to innovate because there are so many. There are rapid changes in the labor market that these students will confront. There are advances in cognitive science. We know more now about how people learn and the different ways that people learn. And we have new technologies. And I think that one of the silver linings, if there were any, of the pandemic is that we come out of that with more faculty comfortable using technology in their teaching in effective ways. So I think for us, the celebration of our first 100 years and anticipating our second 100 years, we're a young university. We are, we are known for being a R1 and an AAU, now newly christened AAU university, but also one that's really focused on a high degree of student engagement and teaching prowess. So what could we create that would be anticipating the future of higher education for us? And what could we create that would take advantage maybe uniquely of our setting in Miami and some of the challenges that Miami faces? So those were the kinds of things we were thinking about in trying to create this degree program. What do we want to look like in the future? What do we think our students will need? And how do we take advantage of this place where we find ourselves working?
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I mean, and so, what we just talked about, both of you were operating from a position of strength. Both institutions were operating from a position of strength. But that doesn't always guarantee success, especially with innovation when you're kind of stepping out into the unknown. I'd like to kind of move into how each of the institutions manage the innovation process and the approach to innovation, both from a kind of practical, functional perspective and also from a cultural perspective. So, Kathi, I know one of the first things that Miami did was pull together a group of faculty to help facilitate the creation of the new program. Can you tell us about the kind of selection process and the collaboration process and what that was like?
Sure. These folks were really celebrated and as innovation fellows. The deans of all of our 11 schools and colleges recommended to the provost and president faculty who they thought were just really innovative. So it wasn't it wasn't necessarily our most senior faculty. It was the faculty really ranged from lecturers and professors of practice to highly regarded researchers. It really ranged. And we had a lot of involvement from the professional schools. And that was really unusual because as most universities, the professional schools sit over in their own silos. So we had 3 different faculty from law, our School of Law, be involved, in some from medicine as well. So that caused, some other faculty to say, what do those people know about teaching undergraduates? But it was a very robust, impressive group of faculty, and they really, I unfortunately came right after they did most of their the launching of their work with Minerva, but I have interviewed many of those faculty to learn about that experience, and every single one has talked about what an amazing thought partner Minerva was in that process. So a lot of it was the kind of excitement of learning about different people on your campus, maybe you had some passing familiarity with, but you really, the faculty described it as a kind of a roller coaster ride. Like you'd be like thinking you understood something, and then suddenly you'd learn something about another discipline that really threw you for a loop. So I think they really found the intellectual heft of that experience very motivating for them, and really felt both honored as people who had some expertise in their own discipline, but then also they felt like they were students and they were learning about other disciplines. And time and time again, the Minerva facilitators have been mentioned to me, and of course I know them now myself as really amazing thought partners in that process.
That is great to hear, and thank you so much for those kind words. Yes, we definitely try to be thought partners in the innovation process. In the paper, we highlighted a roadmap for innovation that includes the importance of partnership, as you were just touching on, Kathi. Rafa, I'm wondering if you can describe how Minerva worked with Anáhuac, how we worked together, and the key aspects that you see that helped make that collaboration a success.
Yeah, great. I will make a little bit of a comment of what Kathi mentioned earlier, because I think it's really important also for us. We understand that one of the main topics we have to address when we start this idea of working with Minerva, and it's not only working with Minerva, but trying to challenge the way we were designing the content and getting into the students' reality. That was the main concern of our efforts in the past year. So the first thing we addressed was that usually fear is the one that makes the motivation for a lot of people to get into something new. I like a lot to do mountaineering and swimming open waters, and there's two kind of person entering the wilderness: the one that are afraid of doing it, and the ones that want to find something new, and they are prompted by the wonders of the reality. So trying to change this cultural approach from fear to excitement has some practical keys that we have been proposing inside university that is helping us to get into that way. And I will just only highlight that the main success there was to get a look back to tradition of the university. So not trying to say that everything that we are making is going to replace the past of the university, but encasing the heart of the original university and this tradition that it's valuable to the students and it's valuable to the heart of the academics and it's valuable to the society. And getting from that to the challenges of the world is a better approach than just saying, okay, so there's a new world and we have to answer the new trends of the market and the industry. I think for us, it has been really helpful to address this tradition as the heart of the university, and from that build to answer better to our students. So, and this has been changing the idea of the fear as going into the open water, not because we have to save ourselves from drowning, but go into open water prepared and ready because you want to find, as the poet Baudelaire said, something new from facing the unknown. And for answer, Ayo, I think the three main things that we have to address in terms of how we are working together with Minerva is starting from principles. I remember the first session we had with Minerva was a lot of philosophical questioning from the principles we were working together. For Anáhuac University, it's very important for us to get full understanding of what are we aiming by education. And we have a great and really excited discussion about what is education for. And I think these principles that sometimes are like given from granted, it's important to make a discussion from it, because that's the tradition part that could change the way of innovation in institutions. So starting from the principles is very important. Addressing what is education for and what are we heading in education is for us the most important part of the first stage of the collaboration with Minerva. And I would recommend always to start from that idea of not giving from granted the principles that are driving our heart into education. The second one is not establish a relationship with Minerva only as a vendor-client relationship. I think that was our first breakthrough into this alliance of this partnership, because we understand that we have a mutual respect, and our university has a tradition. Minerva has a great innovation development, but in appreciating as people that is working together for the better of the students, I think that was the main strategy to make our teams working together. So we were a team collaborating with each other and not a vendor that is giving us the secret recipe of how to make innovation in education. I think that's not a correct approach in terms of innovation. It's most a merge of people that share principles and can work together. And the third one is the co-creation approach, not the replication approach, I want to call that. It's not that, okay, so Minerva has found something that it's useful for everybody. I think that's a lie always. There's nothing that is always useful for everybody. But I think Minerva has found certain insights and developed certain methodologies that when we work to co-create something new, we can find something really great. So this approach of not being trained by Minerva, but co-creating with Minerva, with a good team that is ready to integrate this into the reality of the university and Mexico characteristics and cultural specifics, demographics of our population. I think those were the three main points, starting from principles, making a partnership beyond the client relationship, and giving a co-creation space and not just only a passive receiving of knowledge.
That's awesome. Go ahead, Kathi. You don't need to raise your hand.
See how I've raised my hand. Thank you.
I love that.
Well, I just, because I wanted to jump on something that Rafa said that I thought was so important about not rejecting the value of tradition. your campus. And I think that's really important, because if you say, okay, this set of faculty, these are the innovators, it can have the effect of making other people feel bad. Well, I'm innovative. I wasn't tapped to do this. What we're doing is innovative. And so the analogy that I try to use with our faculty is to think about it as, this may be too American-centric metaphor, but home and garden television, or this old house, right? You have this historic structure of the university, but like a historic home that you might renovate, you want it to have high-speed internet and really fancy bathrooms, right? So how do we take the tradition of our universities and not lose that, like build on that, but create space to try some new things and to do things differently? And so I think I really like, Rafa, that you raised that point about tradition. And I've lowered my hand, Ayo, so we can.
I love the renovation analogy. Yeah, that idea of kind of remodeling, but without destroying the original structure, I think it's a nice analogy. And yeah, I mean, we really do feel strongly that the idea of partnership, as opposed to a vendor-client relationship where it's based on mutual respect, our partners come to us with a great deal of institutional knowledge and institutional heritage, as well as subject matter expertise, and so we really try to build upon that when we're working together. So yeah, we talked about kind of overcoming fear just a moment ago. What were some of the other challenges that each of you faced? Maybe Kathi, you could kind of start with one that the team struggled with, and how that was overcome.
I don't know if we're far enough along in our program to know that anything's been truly overcome, but one thing that was a challenge for us was to work through the university governance, work through the Senate process. And the governance is set up to reflect those traditional structures of departments and schools and colleges. And what was being proposed with this program was really an intentional effort to cut across silos. And so we needed to get that approved, that new thing that doesn't really fit the model, but we had to get it approved through that governance structure. So that was really challenging. In the first year, the Senate raised a number of issues and gave it a provisional 1 year provisional approval. And then we had to come back a year later and address the issues that they were concerned about. And it's interesting because now that we're in year 2, and you mean, here we have a little spoiler alert. It was approved, but it wasn't easy. And the Senate was really concerned, I think, about student mental health and well-being if the students were in an accelerated program. So a lot of the things that the Senate wanted to hear and wanted us to report on a year later turned out to be not the biggest challenges. Like, these students are up for the challenge. They love their program. They're working all the time. That hasn't been such a big issue, but figuring out, having the institutional knowledge, figuring out how you're going to remodel that old house so that the plumbing is still going to work, right? That's really been the challenge. Like, and Ayo, in your white paper, you talk about some of the reasons that new programs fail, one of them being insufficient investment. And so figuring out how to make the investment work for this program has been a big challenge. So anyway, several of our challenges. I will now mute and turn to Rafa.
That's terrific. Thank you. Yeah, Rafa, why don't you go ahead and kind of outline some of the challenges that Anáhuac had to overcome?
I think the main challenge is a financial challenge, but isn't specifically characteristic financial challenge that is not only the disposable of the resources to allocate to the innovation. This financial challenge comes that Anáhuac Online has been growing the last 3 years really, really great, really successful. We are opening a lot of postgraduate and undergraduate programs online, and we have been receiving a really good appreciation from the market. So the challenge was not that, oh, where are we going to take the money for making this investment? That was not the challenge. The challenge was, as my board told me, Rafa, if we are doing great and we are doing things that are helping us to grow even more. And we are still seeing the numbers of the students getting bigger and bigger and bigger every 5 weeks and 6 weeks. Why should we allocate the resources that we could be using for making 20, 10 of the other model programs to this kind of innovation that you're asking me? That is, first, I remember Ayo is first was the idea of making the model to work with it, and then the program. So why put so much effort and people and the resources that we could be investing in making a greater portfolio of content of the same product we are making to reach other markets? Why to do that? That was a financial questioning of how to start this development. And the answer is linked to my past comment of tradition. We answered that our mission as university is not to become the biggest university in the world. My main driving to give my life into education is not just to reach 500, 10,000, 20,000. I don't care about the ultimate goal of reaching a lot of students. I want to reach students in the best way possible. So getting back this core of the University of Mission, remember, why do we make the education happen? So it's our duty to try to do it our best. We always say the same thing: who loves, do the best. So when I told my team, if we certainly love students, then we have to do it the best we can. And that implies not getting satisfied just because our product is getting well received, thinking that it's not something that could match better the needs of the students. And also the other argument was, we certainly know that something's happening in the world these days in education, and something is going to happen. So we want to be there, not only in terms of being successful in selling our content, but we want to be there being part of the revolution that it's in our doorstep of what's about to happen in terms of innovation, education, AI. So something big, I think, is that will make a change in the future of how do we learn and help people to learn. It's happening, and I told my board that let's be part of it, not only in terms of our financial strategy of growing, but in the core aspect of our nature and our mission in society.
Yeah, I love that return to quality and purpose and long-term visioning, as opposed to, popularity and short-term financial gain or short-term growth as the kind of core to how you framed that that argument with your board. Kathi, were there anything that you're aware of that was related to the financial component that Rafa was just touching on? I think Miami was pretty well funded as it related to this program, right? That wasn't a major issue.
There was definitely, because this was part of our strategic plan and our vision for our next century, there was definitely funding that was available for some new hires on the staff side, and funding to partner with Minerva, and funding to pay for the instruction, at least initially, right? So that, but the problem is, and I don't want to get too much in a rabbit hole. Yeah, every institution funds its instruction differently, right? But if you have an RCM model or a modified RCM and you're waiting for money to come back, and how does an interdisciplinary program work with that? So we've really had some very serious conversations. I met with the deans yesterday to say, we want to embed this. We want it to work and to bring advantage to the colleges that are participating. And I think that with our original model, it wasn't really sustainable. It was like, Ayo, I'll hire you to teach a class. Rafa, I'll hire you to teach a class. Where really we want it to be more embedded organically in the colleges. So figuring out a financial model, I think, is a big piece of it. And when I talked to our leaders after I joined the university, they said, Kathi, you're right, but if we had tried to figure that out, we'd still be figuring it out. So I'm still figuring it out.
Yeah, no, that makes total sense. Maybe that sort of gets to some of the longer term thinking, and how each of your institutions is looking at measuring the success of the innovation initiatives. Rafa, you talked about this kind of long-term view with preparing students for the uncertain world with AI and whatnot. What are some of the metrics or some of the measurements that are going to be used to evaluate the success of this innovation work that we're embarking on?
I think we have been already making some metrics about the success of the innovation in the design phase. That was being able to join the teams and bring in something together. I think that for me was a success criteria that was allowed. And also making this space of freedom of making something new happen from it and not just engaging with something that exists was the second metric that when I saw the result of our first stage of designing together results, remember I was really excited. I said, okay, this is great. This is what I was thinking of. I can see my university here. I can see my faculty here. I can see my team here making something together with Minerva's team. And that was a key. I will recommend also to everybody, this is a key metric, a qualitative metric to getting to know that the innovation is not only being seen as a transferring process of ideas, but an alive process of making something happen from scratch. So I think that was the first metric. And the second metric, of course, are more practical. When we are making the program, I want this program to be accredited, to have accreditation online. I also have the impact of market. I have also really clear what I have to do in terms of market, how many students I would like to have in my cells, how do I expect my return, and beyond all of this, the evaluation of the student of the content and how they are integrating into our new proposal of the new business program that we are launching. It's going to be also interesting, the metric of the degree of in-person and hybrid experiences in the program. How do they engage with decent persons, because we have students all around Mexico. We have more than 10,000 students, but it's important to give notice. Right now in all our programs, we have like 1,000 students, 2,000 students 3 years ago. And this growing of the program is making a stage for us to say, okay, let's make something pretty different now. And let's see how these students are engaging with in-person experiences and making something happen from this. That would be my main key metrics of the success. I won't call it the success of innovation. I will call the success of the cooperation between Minerva and Anáhuac Online. And a consequence from that shared principles of working together for reaching better the student is that we are making something new. But it's only a consequence of the things that we are aiming and not the thing that we are obsessively looking for it.
That's awesome. Kathi, what about you? What are some of the ways that you and the institution are looking at kind of measuring the success of both ITD and your own initiatives, are related to innovation?
Well, our president is eager to remind us that this is a program that we are assessing rigorously. And I think, on his part and on the part of the provost, there is a willingness to say, if this doesn't work, then, you learn a lot through failure, and that's okay. Our students have been super successful in the first 2 years. They've won a bunch of pitch competitions. We have a graduate student in STEM education who's been doing a study of the students and of the faculty. And so we're looking at what he's learning. We're using the NESI survey in terms of the self-efficacy of these students. It's really quite high. They feel comfortable with their quantitative abilities and problem solving, design thinking, all kinds of things like that. I think the real metric will be whether or not these students get jobs, because we still have people who are fully in communications or fully in entrepreneurship or fully in engineering saying, what do they really know? They've only had a couple engineering courses, or they only had a couple coding courses, or a couple courses in entrepreneurship. We have industry partners who have said things, very tantalizing things like, we'll hire all of these students. But it's really that I think the proof will be in the pudding that way. And the students, they want some reassurance. We're pushing them into internships. They have mandatory internships starting as early as their first summer. Well, as anybody who's a parent knows, it's very unusual for a first-year student to get an internship. So like we've like kind of pivoted there and said, okay, maybe the first-year internships need to be ones we provide on campus where they're using their design thinking skills to help us solve problems. The students take it really seriously, working with clients. I've been really impressed with that, but I think ultimately where we place these students and how they become ambassadors for this program will be kind of make it or break it.
Yeah, that's interesting. That the real world connectivity and kind of ramping up with kind of on campus activities. And Rafa, you were talking about that as well, right? That kind of one of the lines of sight that we have with our programming is toward those engagements that might be offline or in person as well. Well, I want to start kind of wrapping up here. Kathi, maybe you could share some of the key takeaways that you have about launching a new program for our guests.
Yeah, number one is active stakeholder engagement and communication through the process. And again, I mentioned talking with the deans yesterday, and they were saying like, it was great. The innovation fellows were off working with Minerva, they were having a wonderful time, but people didn't necessarily know what was going on, including the deans. So I think ultimately for us, having to go through a governance process where we're asking schools to approve new courses and a new program, that's a piece of it I would probably build a little differently going forward to make sure that the innovation fellows feel a burden and responsibility to report back to their schools and colleges, and to get run things by, not just wait till the end, right? But to run some of the ideas by their faculty and give other people on campus a sense that they're participating in this too, not just being handed like, hey, we went to summer camp, we made a new program here, so that's really important. And I think the other thing I would say is that the onus is on us as the academic partners to Minerva to help you all understand our unique institutional climate, right? And what I don't think that Minerva should be expected to understand how our faculty senate works, or where we're likely to get money or not get money, or what our accreditation risks are, right? We have to, as the academic partner, say like, okay, maybe we need to bring in our accrediting partner earlier in the process for a new degree program. But I think that's one of the takeaways for me, is like, make sure we're sharing with you all of the, not in a way that constrains innovation, but just that so that you as our partner know what some of our challenges are. Yeah,
I mean, constraints are a key part of successful innovation. But I really liked what you outlined, lots of knowledge sharing, communication, and kind of expanding the pool of inputs beyond the core team. That all makes a ton of sense. Rafa, what about you? What's one key piece of advice that you've got for the leaders that are gathered here today?
We have really make a focus on this and trying to understand what can we make as an advice, but also as what have we learned in these months. So the first thing is picking the right people. I think you have to have a certain level of maturity in terms of, okay, we are going to bring this step forward, trying to build something new. You have to have the people that it's fit into this kind of project. For that, you have to have people that it's excited, first of all, and we have felt in a lot of universities, a lot of people is lacking from excitement. A lot of people is lacking from excitement. So it's hard to find somebody that is enthusiastic in terms of saying, okay, I want more job, I want to do something new, and everybody's so full of everything in everyday's life that I don't say that it's not space for innovation. I think it's not a space for excitement and enthusiasm. And if you put people that is not excited about it, it's going to be a pitfall almost immediately. The second one characteristic of these persons is have to be intellectual capable. We need people that it's in a certain degree of intellectual amplitude of getting to know not only about their field. So we have certain academics of the field, but also other people that are not fully academic in terms that they have a scope of management and project management, but also people that is in philosophy. So we have a broad scope of intellectual interest, so people can engage with pedagogy, not in terms of being experts in pedagogy, but have a natural curiosity of the world and students and everything about. The third characteristic of people, of these right people, is also that they are adventurous, in terms that they are open to take certain risks and trying to think some things that are maybe uncomfortable for yourself. So people that it's used to be uncomfortable, it's important. That is not satisfied. That's also a part that I always say in my team. We have to be a perpetual unsatisfied, in a good sense, team, that it's always urging for doing something better, not because we are obsessed with perfection, but we are committed with the students we serve. So that would be the third characteristics. The second advice is to give authority to the project leaders to make decisions, not bringing all the hierarchy of the university in terms of everything. Okay, so I think certain things have to be approved by the high hierarchy of university, but once that has been made, you have to put a specific target in terms, okay, give authority to the people that it's involved, so they can make decisions and not going every time to the dean, to the provost, to everybody to make a validation of the content. You have to give authority, and for that you have to have good people in the project so you can make this happen. And the third one is see it as a playground. See this collaboration in terms of not. Sometimes we academics are a little bit eager of having the control of what is going to be afterward, the collaboration, what is the product that we are going to have at the end. And I think that the third advice is let's have a little bit of discussion first together. Don't be so obsessed with the idea of what is happening afterwards, but be open to this uncertainty of getting something new is not happening what it's afterwards. So getting comfortable with this idea and getting excited and take it also really serious. I always put the same example, Ayo, and with this I finish, is when I tell to my students that they are engaging a new content online, I always say the same. You have to be, as a kid playing its own games, they are really serious when they're playing their games, really serious, but they are also really excited and playful. So this attitude is the one that we want to engage in the team. So they are serious, really serious with what they're doing and take it into themselves, but also open to things that they have not in control.
Yeah, I love that. Those mindset attributes seem like they dovetail a lot, right? The entrepreneur that needs to also be autonomous, excited, and playful. I think that's fantastic. I want to move into the Q&A. So thank you both for taking the time to share these insights with us. Driving innovation is difficult but rewarding when done well, and can yield long-term benefits for institutions.